Hey, this is Dave from Beyond the Sea Bag. I got my old friend, Gunnery Sergeant John Szczepanowski. I could never pronounce that last name, bro. We called you Ski, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yep.
Back
So
many scars ago.
yep. Me and John served back in the first Gulf, and I just went through John, and look at this, man. This is all the pictures that I found from those days, and I will post these up. And what I just showed John earlier before I started this was I asked him, I was like, how come he got a name tag and I didn't? So he didn't remember that, and
I think I actually can remember. I know the answer to this. I remember this exactly. I remember it exactly. You said, "F this, I'm not doing it." I'm short. You were telling me that it was just straight up because you were like, I'm short. I'm not buying name tags. I'm not staying. I remember
I believe that statement because, yeah, that would definitely be me. It's still me now, man.
Yeah, well, it's me now too. It just took, longer period of trying to get that through my head.
Yeah, no, definitely that was the fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah, that was the mentality.
Yep.
That was. But that was many years ago. So yeah, I'm excited to see these pictures. I'm also kind of frightened.
Oh,
I don't remember some of them. Like half of that stack, I probably remember two.
Yeah, right. Here's the gist of most of them, right?
Oh yeah.
So there's our buddy Chico. Chico, I don't know if you've ever caught up with him, but I have never been able to find Chico again.
He's called me a few times, and yeah, no, he's dropped me a couple of calls in the past, and I don't know, whatever reason, life kind of gets in the way, and you forget about things. So yeah, it's just one of those forgotten phone calls that I need to get back to in life. In fact, but
Yeah.
he was. Last I heard, he was still living in Riverside, California, where he originated from, if I'm not mistaken. And
Right.
yeah,
I remember going out to his house, I believe. Didn't you go with me? I can't remember, but we went out to his house to meet his family right before we deployed, and it was kind of
I do remember that.
I don't know, typical Mexican community, and he was just like, yeah, these guys are supposed to be here. You look more Mexican than I did. I was like a sore damn thumb. But
you definitely stuck out. Yeah, they were like, all right, who brought their in-law with them?
Yeah, right.
There's always one, right?
Well, he's law enforcement. So
are we left?
yeah. So going back in the days, me and John were both Lance Corporals back then. We were both short. This was our last deployment. Yeah, man. Just on that deployment, we stopped a lot of places. It was a Westpac, but it was bound for Kuwait. We did stop in Kuwait. We went through Kuwait. We I think we were in Bahrain for a little while.
Yep.
I think the mission of 1-1. We were in 1-1 special ops capable. Right, they had to give cool little descriptions to give us. I don't know what the hell the point was that to make us feel special that we were going over to be bodies and for the U.S. military and
cool
shit
name.
like that. But
yeah, it's got to have a cool name.
Yeah, we had to do a whole bunch of stupid shit to get that capability classification, and going out in the field and humping all over the place. And yeah, I think I remember us fucking around with some tarantulas in the field or something like that, and we realized that at that point that tarantulas can jump like 6 feet.
You know what? Oh my God!
But
I totally remember that. I remember the shared misery that we had of 1-1. That's what that is.
Yeah.
It's shared misery. We were short and we knew it, and that was the thing that made it worse. Is that we were like, none of this makes sense. So we're leaving.
So, yeah, I was looking at all those pictures and everything, and it's like it was yesterday, but it wasn't yesterday. And I know, I got out. They did promote me after. I can't even believe they promoted me to a corporal
on the last day.
Yeah, right. And I think I what do you call it when you get out? You use all your terminal leave. I did that, And then they're like, "Oh, here you go." Yeah, I was like, "Gee, thanks, asshole. Fuck you." And I think you got out not too long after that and moved to Tennessee. And I remember going
Shortly
out and
after that.
visiting you. Yeah, I remember visiting you in Tennessee, Knoxville, I believe it was.
Yes, sir.
And apparently you got back in, man. So I'm not going to say, I don't know if I should say congratulations for doing that or anything. You can talk about all that because I am going to ask you about all that stuff. But
oh, please do.
Yeah. So I mean, on our trip over to the sunny Middle East, there was some stuff that went on that I still talk about that I recently just found out about, and I know you know what I'm talking about. Do you remember signing all those papers? And they were
Threatening NJP.
Yep, they were forcing us to take medication. I want to say experimental, but they never called it experimental. I don't even know if they called it experimental to this day. They probably don't, but it was. Don't know, I think, and I remember one of them was like a pill. It was like a little pill, and they would check to see if you freaking swallowed it and shit. And damn, man, I mean, bro, there's only one way to put it, but that was some fucked up shit.
Yeah, no. So what they were doing R&D for non-FDA approved research, things that were probably going to go through, but they needed live experiments. It was Japanese cephalitis. That was the name of that. That was that one that, and I remember there was another kid that did get NJP. He was the house mouse. You remember him? Rogers? Sonny
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
He was kind of like on our side, but he worked in the company office. But he was just like hung out with us for some reason. He was a good Marine, but he would always give us the skinny, and he's like, "Yeah, that stuff is not even FDA." He goes, "Do not sign that stuff." I remember him telling us that, and he got punished. Yeah, and then he got promoted because he went back and apologized. I remember that. He recused himself, and they promoted him.
Right. That's nuts. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, we were kids. We were kids. Literally, we were kids, man. And I know everyone says the same thing. They're always like, well, you volunteered for this and this and that. And yeah, but you know what? Impressionable minds at, 18, 19, 20, 21, and you can be talked into anything. I don't give a shit what anybody says about how, mature you are. Or, bullshit, man. You're a kid. You're a kid, and you go in, and you're a body. And
to knowingly infect people for the purpose of research, yeah, that's not. There's other people you can experiment on.
Yeah,
you can research on them.
Yeah, I remember spitting a bunch of a medication over. We used to go to the side of the ship and hawk it off the side of the ship. I don't remember what that was, but
one for the stuff in the Philippines. I don't remember what that was. I forget what that one. I remember
it had to be malaria then.
There you go. That big blue malaria pill.
Yeah.
I remember that thing. We're like,
yeah. And they were like, "You're gonna take these," and I was like, "Yeah, sure."
Mikey was like that too. He was another one that was like, "Nope, not taking it."
Yeah. But, and the guys that would take it would be throwing up.
Hey, make sure whoever's listening, and this is a good follow-in, if you served in the Gulf War and were kind of, some of this stuff sounds familiar to you, you need to go in register for the Gulf War, because that stuff, we were exposed to stuff that shouldn't have been and ought to have been out of our systems, but there are people that are, it's a real thing. It's not some made-up disability. It's actually stuff that you need to pay attention to.
Yeah, I remember coming back, and we hadn't even made it to Hawaii yet, and your hair was falling out.
Yeah, it partially thinned halfway through the deployment. It could have been from my ex, or it could have been from the first sergeant. I don't know. It was a combination of both of them. I think they were chipping away at all the hair on my head. Some of the lieutenants that we had, Mr. Football. Well, you know which one I'm talking about, Farraguzzi? Can we say last name?
Yeah, I remember him. I don't care.
Okay. I don't care either.
Doesn't look like I give a fuck.
What are you going to do? I honestly don't care.
Yeah. So, whatever, man. You want to come after me, come after me. I don't. Fuck you.
You know what? If that guy's even around, good on him.
So, but yeah, I mean, after that, you went out to Tennessee, and then I guess somewhere along the line you re-enlisted again, and you ended up back in the sandbox over in Afghanistan. And
Well,
how
Iraq.
did that happen?
Yeah, no, Iraq and
Right.
Afghanistan. Yeah, no. So what's trippy is I tell people when people look at everyone, you put a uniform on, people tend to look at like the where you been stuff, and some people are like, "What's that one?" I'm like, "Dude, I got the collector series." It's a limited edition collector series. There's very few of us that can stand up through most of the Marine Corps ball. Have you served in this? Have you served in that? So yeah, so there's a few of us, and so yeah, the Gulf War went back in on the reserve side somewhere around '94 and started doing extra duty. Yeah, no, I just had that. I don't know. I just started going to school, going through a divorce, trying to figure out where I was in life, and I don't think I had really had the full taste of the Marine Corps out of my system, so I went back in on the reserve side up until 9/11, and that was kind of where I picked back up, and that was that was like another 15 years later.
Yeah, I wanted to get back in it.
Yeah, once I was there, I picked up, strangely enough, I shut my mouth and started picking up rank pretty quickly. One, it's better to create chaos inside the system when you have rank than outside the system trying to jump in. So, yeah, once I picked up NCO, I was
And by that time, you were what? You were like what, sergeant?
Staff after 4 years.
Really?
Yeah, I stayed because my MOS, man, 03s never get promoted.
Hoorah.
Semper us, right? So
yeah, right.
And then staff sergeant and gunny, I was 4 years.
Damn.
And I retired at 25 as a gunny. I kept getting selected for first sergeant. I kept getting in zone for first sergeant, and I avoided that stuff like the Heisman. Every time it came up, I found some. I was like, you know what? I'm retiring. I'm done. I don't want this. I don't want to do this, and I don't want that rank.
Yeah.
And I was very adamant
once you get
about
like
that.
the first sergeant, that's kind of the first sergeant thing. That was as far as I remember, that was kind of a pokey thing, and anybody that wanted to do anything, you wanted to go into like the master sergeant type deal, and not a first sergeant.
It's too far away. All the time, I was always too far away. So they're like, you're in zone for first sergeant. You're going to get picked if you don't do this, this, and this. And so I would make sure I didn't do any of that. And whoops, I forgot. Gunny forgot. Hey,
I think we were talking about me jumping back in the 90s, coming back in sergeant, and 4 years. And it was pretty much a 4-year cycle for each rank. I think I was at 12 years when I picked up staff. And then closer to maybe 16 years when I picked up gunny. So, I mean, I had to catch up. I had to make up 3 years of dead time.
Okay.
What they considered dead time, where I was just like, I'm done, not doing anything. Sorry, I'm changing the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here, pretty much everything on the property right now, this office that I'd built, this little monstrosity that I started building, is kind of like a home base office now. But it's nice to be able to have property that you can work with. But yeah, the cool thing is all these little bees. I don't know if you can see those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, is that
They're not so interested.
that you built for the veterans?
Yes, sir. This is the ranch. So it's a retreat home, residence, whatever however you want to call it. But it's open to veterans. Sorry if I'm moving around. So the idea of Warrior Ranch 1775 was started kind of in California with my last business, which was in fitness. The problem is COVID hit, and that kind of crushed 5 years of hard work and investment right into the dirt, especially being a business owner in California, which absolutely sucked. Just there's no way. Yeah, there's no way a small business can survive in a corporate driven market that's, dictated by the, local government on how to weed out small businesses. It's really kind of sucks, man. But anyways, that's a different story. Moved out here to the great state of Texas for, obvious reasons, a lot more land, more freedoms, and found a little gem. And so the idea was fostered to take the idea of my gym and replicate it, but build bigger, attach more things to it. And so it was a fitness studio, a yoga studio, a place for learning and, agriculture, horticulture, different things, plant species, and then bees got involved. And that kind of was a catalyst into something else, and that'll be more of where I'm at now in life. But it took me through Iraq in 2008 and Afghanistan in 2009 and 10, and finally retiring after 25 years and just saying I've had enough, man. I'm done.
Right on.
I'm tired. I think I've gave up. So I wanted to build something, created a fitness studio in California. Fast forward, built the same thing here in Texas. You look out there, this is
nice.
I think you can hear the birds louder than you can hear anything else. And especially in the morning. So you're not that far outside of the city, but far enough away that you can just, not have to worry about whatever.
Right.
And you can actually hear yourself really clear. That's the cool thing about it. It's when you take away the distractions, you hear the things you don't want to hear really loud and clear.
Right.
You got to deal with them.
Now that's open to pretty much all vets, and does that deal with PTSD issues for them, or is it just a place to get the hell out of Dodge?
I don't want to label it just for people that have, any type of mental health, PTS or depression. I want it to be open to whoever. So that way there's no, when we say it's just open, it's open. If you're a service member that served, then this is an area that should be considered home. If you're a Marine and you don't speak up, you're a putz for doing it. One,
yeah.
That's insulting. There's a third generation ran farm, and so you better present yourself as a Marine so that way you're at home and join the mafia.
Yeah.
And I'll share it on my website as well, so that way we can get this message. Between what you're doing and what we're doing, it's bringing things to light that need to be there and talking about issues that people don't want to talk about or just refuse to address. I don't know.
Right. And it only took us, I don't know how many fucking years to figure out what the hell we wanted to do.
Yeah, 40-something years to figure out that I didn't like the way things were going.
Damn. Went through a lot of shit.
Now we're in our late 50s, and you're kind of going, you know what? I'm kind of hearing everything now a lot clearer.
Yeah. It's time to give back, sometimes.
It makes you feel better too. I mean, the thing of it is, it's passing that knowledge. It's the same thing as the transition of a grandparent, right? The new child, and grandparent. There has to be that transfer of information between generations.
Right.
And so it's really important to have that relationship with families and making sure that their grandparents are involved, because that's a link to history. And if it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah. And I know there's different ways to do it and everything. And like I said, with this, and I know you were kind of thinking the same way back, because I know you back from way back, and I think we had both the same
ideas
of, because you can tell someone something and, be nice, this and that. What? No, some fucking veterans need to be, hey, listen, you stupid fuck. You're doing this shit fucked up, and it's going to fuck you up later in life, and just want you to listen to somebody that's been through this shit. And some of us need to hear it that way. I know there was back in, I ain't going to mention names, but I know you know who I'm talking about, back on the float and shit. Some motherfuckers need to get roped up,
It
the real,
happens. You can't have that. You can't have that infect everybody. I mean, it's a morale crusher when you don't have law checks and balances. It just happens. If they refuse to play, you got to make them abide by the rule or help them on their way out. Not not physically by any way. I don't want anybody to go, did you mean like, no, we didn't mean physically, but
yes, we did.
if you got to get someone's attention over and over again, you do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. What, like I said, I'm not going to mention any names, but I remember that one dude, because I think he got under your skin more than he did mine. But I think because he was with your unit originally when we got put over
My
on
section.
Hipster. Yeah, so
He was in my section. That was my A gunner, and that's what pissed me off even more because I was like, "You give me the shit bag."
yeah,
Really? That's what I get? I get the shit bag?
yeah,
What does that make me? It just that float felt so wrong.
yeah, yeah. I just remember being there, and I was like, I don't know if we talked about. I remember being over the motherfucker a couple times, and hit him, hit him, hit him. Fuck him up.
Things happen.
Yeah,
Things happen, and you hope the positive outcome happens. And
yeah,
sometimes you got to help it along.
yeah.
It's good nurturing that hopefully doesn't create long-term damage.
Yeah, well,
No, it would. The thing of it is that problem came in like that. It wasn't created at our level. It came to our level that way.
yeah. Well, the
And
only thing
so,
and this is what I think about too a lot. Some of the guys, and this is going through my whole. I only did 4 years. You did a lot longer than I did, but it's like how many guys did I give PTSD to from some of the shit, that I did or took him into, or I don't know, whatever. Did I, um, and again, I'm speaking about violence and shit, but
it's easy to do.
you know what I'm saying?
It really is easy to do because it's it's the easiest thing to do. Puts no thought.
Yeah, and when you're 20 years old, that it's like that comes out without even thinking about it.
Live fast and die young.
Yeah,
It was a good, and you don't think about long term. Like, nah, I don't like that. I want to really kind of slow down, and sometimes I'm just tired, and
right.
I don't want to do anything, and sometimes I want to go do this, and which is great at this point in life now, is because we, you and I, both put in time where we can sit back now and go, you know what? I don't need to do much of anything else right now. I'm
Right.
doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. So anyway, going back into your
Yeah.
military service and stuff, you got back in. You went over to uh, Afghanistan,
Iraq first.
Iraq.
Yeah, Iraq first, and did 220 there, and they came back and did another 220 in
Wow.
Afghanistan.
Damn. And that was
And
probably
so,
right in the middle of that shit, right?
yeah, so that was the transition out of Iraq and the push into Marja in March of 2000. What was that? 8, 9,
Yeah.
9, 10.
Yeah. That's when
So
shit got great, right?
yeah, that's when we were flushing everyone down and out through the country that we won't name, Iran, and then out of the Helmand province. So that was the separation when the army took over the last remaining mountain, and McChrystal wanted all the Marines down to push into Helmand and push everything out, chasing drugs more than anything. But that mission, I got to tell you, there were some people on that mission that I really absolutely despised,
Yeah.
and there were other NCOs and staff NCOs. They were assigned to me, and I'm like, really, this is what I got?
Yeah.
Just a very different breed of Marine. Arrogant, very arrogant, not in the sense of like arrogant like you're supposed to be, but arrogant like I've done this before. Listen to me, and I'm like, I actually have done this before. You're coming here new, and I get it. You've been in for 15 years, but please, don't insult my 23 years of doing the same thing a couple times.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
and
so spooky mission, very like weird leadership styles. It was a very dark time because as a senior staff NCO, you really get to see the good and the bad officers.
right.
And you see them at that corporate level, that mid-level, upper management level, and you really want to kick them off the planet.
Yeah. Well, I think I mentioned to you earlier. There's a guy. I think he's a colonel. He's in the White House staff, I think, or something, some capacity. What I think his name's Schiller, Colonel Schiller, I think it was, and he got booted out because he spoke up against all the bullshit and how the hierarchy and the officers and stuff were just not listening to anybody. And that was right around the same time that you were doing all that stuff, and nobody was listening to anybody, and just they were sending out and it, I know you know this, man. The higher you get, the less you do out in the field and shit. And you're sending all these 20-year-olds out in the field to get shot up, and they don't even know what the fuck they're going out there for.
Dude, we ran over 600 miles of missions through some of the worst areas in Iraq and Fallujah. I had the 3 police districts in the Al Anbar districts, Fallujah, and all the way out to what the hell is that? Citra IP. There was all these all in total we had 12 police stations that we were. Sorry for the background noise.
No problem.
We had 12 police stations that we were responsible for, and I had a 10 Marine team, 1 corpsman, 9 Marines to run missions and transition out our way of Western democracy to the Iraqi police. And then we tried to do the same thing in Afghanistan with border police. So like an excessive waste of gear and,
Yep.
Rangers and, like side by side and all this cool stuff that just got, as soon as it hit the dirt there, it was gone.
Yeah. And that's the same stuff they were doing in the first Gulf too. Remember, the guys would go out and try to train.
Just give them a case.
Yeah, the Bahrainians or the Saudis. It's like
just give them a suitcase full of money and just be done with it. Don't buy a bunch of BS.
It's a joke. And you got higher ups. You got, I'm sure there's CIA out there. Nobody's accountable for damn thing. So it's just
when we got pulled back in Iraq was right at the very tail end. So we got 3 months in of running missions, which was really cool to run these teams, these transition teams, because we had pretty much complete autonomy of what and how we ran every mission.
Right.
All I had to do is come up with the mission card that I gave to my company gunny to turn over to whatever battlefield commander to their OPSO to approve of. And a lot of times it was stuff we didn't have to. They were like, we still report back to this, reporting agency. So we're just kind of letting you know as a courtesy, we're going to be doing this stuff over here.
Yeah. I love how you said that, the reporting agency.
So and anybody that's been out of there had to do a log train. It is the most painful, daunting task. It's a donkey goat rope of everything the Marine Corps has, including sweepers and all kinds of crazy contraptions.
Right.
It is a complete foobar, and it's everything that the Marine Corps could want to transfer from point A to point B. I remember running with 3 trucks and 10 guys, me driving the last vehicle, like in our or not MRAPs, but the old version 6x, the jalopy style would steal everything, and running past them and them signaling us on the Blue Force tracker going like, who is this? What is 1MEF PTT? Why aren't you following this logo? And we just disregard and I don't report to you. I hopped in the other lane of the traffic. We're oncoming cars and we just blew past them.
Yep.
Blew right into the green zone where I had to take a guy that had broken ribs or something.
Yeah.
It was like, it was a nice way to be able to operate in the Marine Corps in this like little guerrilla warfare capacity.
Yeah, and that's usually what it ends up with when they say you have total autonomy to. And it's like, okay, we're doing this. Okay.
Yeah, dude, that's what the transition teams. Well, I mean, the idea, the premise of what they were supposed to do is to create democracy and bring Western policing, styles and blah blah blah.
Yeah, blah blah. Yeah,
U-
exactly.
Ultimately, you're running mission with these guys, and then setting up a police station so you can run missions out of.
Yeah, and then you're supposed to trust them too, right?
That's how we got blown up.
Yeah. Now
That's
going into,
exactly how I got blown up on May 9th.
yeah, and going into that. Now that you brought that up, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about it. What do you want
I'm
to go
good
through
with it.
that? What happened? I knew you went through some shit, and when I saw that, I mean, I didn't know that happened until I saw your shit on Facebook, and I was like, holy shit, man, what? And I think that's when
I
I was
didn't
like,
say
damn,
anything for a
he
long
went back in.
time.
Yeah,
So yeah, I didn't want to. For a long time, it was really kind of like between me and the guys that were on that team. It's and not because of any. I mean, one of the guys lost part of his hand, but he already had missing his fingers. His name was Nubs. So that explosion just took the rest of his hand off.
right.
And since then, that guy, I think he's climbed Kilimanjaro.
Damn.
So it's like, I don't feel sorry for him. I feel sorry that I had to write a letter back home and write an incident report on that, because we all got blown up that day.
Yeah.
He just got it in the face. That was the difference. Is the fire came through the truck, but yeah, it was a very different. Afghanistan was a very different and separate unit, but being blown up and caught on fire, and then the funny thing is that we found the guy's his appendages, his fingers, and he's like, Gunny, you think they're going to be able to sew him on? I go, no. That was the very last thing as he flew off.
Yeah.
As he said no. But it was just the moment of doing that. It was like, all right, he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of those. I think we in total of temps during our stay there in Iraq, I think we were targeted like 10 times, 12 times. And so we were always having to change movement through one choke point. And so we found that it was just easier to live with the host nation, right? So it was the Iraqi police department. So I just moved in with another team in the police chief's backyard where all the stuff was.
Right.
The problem with that is you're putting your trust into
Right.
people that are selling all your information to everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, there are 10 Americans there. Yeah. So you're just going, okay, how long are we gonna? And we used to get frequent IDF all the time, indirect fire. It was always like somebody lobbing something, or you could hear an RPG go flinging over your head, so you duck down into your little bunker thing and wait, and then go back out and push out a little patrol and
Right.
go find the fucker and try to kill him.
Yep.
So yeah, it was actually a very trippy and unique time in the Marine Corps to have that experience, and for that I'm actually really grateful for the last. I would say the last 18 years of my service was very enlightening to be in the Marine Corps.
Was that the same incident that took your leg?
No, so that happened subsequent. So I'd ripped a portion of my Achilles tendon and kind of lived on little tidbits after I could fight the doc for some morphine. Usually he didn't know that I was sneaking it out, but a little bit of morphine and duct tape. And so I tore my Achilles tendon, half a partial tear through, and didn't say anything and kind of ran that whole cycle and came home, retrained another team, and went back out with just milking it and not saying anything. Probably not the best thing to do, but was able to, do the mission without having to come off
Correct.
on light duty.
Yeah, you want to be out there. Yeah, I get it.
But the second, Afghanistan, when I came home, it was just, I was on my Harley, man. I'd just gotten off, and my foot, the way that I stepped off, I threw the kickstand down and I stepped off, and that ripped the little last piece, and that was it, man. They were like, dude, you lost 30% of your calf.
Wow.
So, and that was after the doc, Bethesda, or I'm sorry, San Diego, their best was put it in a cast for 8 weeks. And so during that time, that lost the other 10% of my calf muscle through atrophy. Mm-hmm. So they ended up having to cut out like 45% of my calf muscle, which leaves me with just kind of enough to operate on.
Right.
And I don't complain because dudes, there are way fucked up more incidents. Guys, losing their limbs totally. And my hat's off because we did a lot of triathlons. And there were I think they were better athletes after their incident than they were probably before.
Right.
It forced them to being better athletes.
Now, how did you originally tear that shit though?
Oh, that was just running around in Iraq, man, with excessive gear and running around beating down doors and chasing bad guys.
Right.
Again, having that complete control, you don't really. That's probably there should have been some more like parameters, but they're like you can go kind of operate whenever. So it was like, okay, we're in we pushed kind of limits on that and played around in the daytime, did a lot of nighttime shit, just out there. You lived out there, so there was really no one that could, who's going to check on you when you're out there already by yourself.
Right. Yeah, and it probably
not that far away from base.
Yeah, and at that point, I can figure it probably becomes, well, I'd rather be out there hunting them than sitting around waiting for them to come to me and fuck me up.
Basically, that was the idea. Is a lot of times when you sit stagnant, like some of the other fob monsters, they would go there, sit there, and want to have meetings within chai and all that bullshit. You're like, dude, let's go, just get some information. Let's source some intel. There's people out here that we can beat up that will speak up and say something. You got to be proactive, otherwise we're not getting out of here. And so a lot of times reports were being drafted that needed to show better progress than what was happening. I'm like, I'm not going to sit there and bullshit the American public, man.
Right. So
I know my recommendations and stuff were scrubbed and rewritten. There's no doubt in my mind what I wrote was, I was like, these guys are still, I hate to say semi-retarded, still fucking each other in the butt. Why are we saying that they're good to go as far as being able to hold a court with judge and set bail? We're not even close to that, dude.
Well, that was the problem with the nation building and everything. It's like, come on, how long have we been doing this? Going back before both of us were born and shit. All nation building, forget about it. It ain't gonna work because half these countries that we go into are back in the Stone Ages and shit. And
well, you're not going to advance them.
No, you're not. You're just not. And I know everybody doesn't want to hear that shit, but this is starting to come out lately with some of the guys like us that is like, stop this shit, man. If you're going to go in, do your job and get the fuck out. Don't be sitting like, I don't know what we're doing in Iran. I know what the whole point of going in Iran was, but it's like, all right, do we have, I don't see an end game, bro.
It doesn't make any, there's some things that make sense and some things you go, you know what, we shouldn't be doing this. We don't have the, unfortunately we got stripped down pretty well. And so to go into it with, still trying to rebuild and say everyone's got your back, I think that's kind of an ignorant strategy. Right. You don't know which one of our allies are flimsy enough to back out.
Yeah. And I'm sure the technology, I'm sure it's changed a lot because, back when me and you were in, shit.
We had 16s,
the Humvees and the 5. Yeah, you're right. And we had plastic doors on our fucking Humvees. Shit, we were still wearing, do you remember where we just got those desert camis, the first issue desert camis. I think we had almost already left the fucking Gulf. We were in greens out there. Looking like a big palm tree in the sand,
A big fuck me here sign on us.
Right? Shoot this.
That's exactly. Then somewhere towards the middle of towards the end of the deployment, I remember we got those issued and they're like, well, you can only do, there was like parameters they started to put like, what are you doing? Why?
Yeah. It's like, why are you even giving me this, man? I have it. I actually have my fucking set that I got. You can't see it. It's on my wall and everything. I got my set right here that was given to me. Uh, Had my boonie and everything. I wrote "fuck the world" on it and everything. I wrote that back on the ship. You might have remembered that one, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I do. That was how you identified yours. I think the only thing I have left, I think the name tapes on my flight bag.
Yeah.
The ones that are in that picture, you're like, how'd you get that? That's the only thing that ever survived was the name tapes.
Wow.
They served me well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's when they started doing the name tapes, right? Because I never had when I was wearing the green camis. We just stamped our name on the back of our collar.
Yeah, well, you and I came in. I think you came in what,
88.
88?
Yeah.
Okay, so I came in 89. So you had a year and some months ahead of me. You're like 14 months ahead of me. And so the change happened during yours and me.
Yeah.
So they went, I remember it was right before the Gulf War. It was like the Marine Corps had less people and the Army had more. So we had to convert to their version because I did boot camp. I had the fuck up Eagle Globe and Anchor and, that don't press here on the side of my camis. Like,
Yeah.
like you iron the whole shit on there and not being like, ah. Or the guy that would get the wrong Eagle Globe and Anchor and put the wrong, like the giant one on the cover.
Yeah.
See, boot camp was the same way, but it was somewhere right in between when I was with 1-4 going into 1-1 that the Army had more people. So the uniform regs fell under the Army and they were like, the Marine Corps has to have name tapes. And we were like, that is the gayest shit I ever heard.
Yeah. I never knew that.
But we ended up having them.
Wow. So.
Yeah, that policy came about because of the then General Schwarzkopf was the Allied NATO commander, and he wanted everyone to be uniformed. Like everyone's going at like we're all going to look like you. All right, great.
Yeah.
And that was the same time they were talking about the way that we rolled our sleeves too. They were trying to get us to re-roll our sleeves to that outward inward look, and we're like, nah, that's pushing.
No.
We're good.
The way we shit, and I still have it rolled to this day. Right here's my greens. Right.
Yeah, dude, I'm surprised that you still have those, man.
Yep.
I think you told me that I will never buy another uniform. You were so done with the Marine Corps at that point. It was funny.
Yeah, I was done.
It was, I think we're both done. There's a point where I think you and I we went through what most kids do at college. You and I were going through at the same time and having a far different experience, and not having kind of the background to have somebody to kind of pull you aside and go, you know what, this isn't. You transition out. It shouldn't be like these are your choices. You can be janitorial, law enforcement, and security. Like that was literally the out briefing we got.
Yep. And then there was no. I mean, I hear that they're doing something now, but it's not really much because when we got out, it was just like, all right, here's your shit, get the fuck off base.
It's that, but they've intermingled in a lot of nonprofits that are there to help, and that's great. That is exactly the way it should be. But there's too much dependency on the nonprofits to pick up the part where the Marine Corps. My thing, and I argued this, and I used to get slapped a lot. Was if you broke it, you buy it.
Right. Oh, they broke a lot.
So if you got a Marine and he's broken, don't fucking throw him away. He was of use to you at some point, and now he's no use to you when he's broken. That's fucked up on your part.
Right.
At least help him. Right. Yeah, you're going to retire.
Yeah, a lot of the guys, when I got out, fortunately I went to school right away and I did something, but, everything caught up with me years later. I was doing fine. I don't know, I could probably pick a few things that triggered the downfall and everything, but I mean, you get out there, and I know a lot of guys didn't do this, but that you get out there and you figure out that, gee, all these skills I have are all around like killing people, and that's about it. You might have some
taking out the trash, raking the lawn, and killing people.
Right. So you know, it might hopefully, you know, I mean, I got a lot more before I got to 1-1. I did a lot of real good stuff with intelligence and reconnaissance, surveillance, all that and everything. So, I mean, but even then, that kind of stuff still doesn't really. It depends on where you go into. I mean, I could have gone into, you know, the three-letter agencies or investigative work or stuff like that. But at that time, man, when you get out, you don't want to go. You know, you don't want to go back into that
It's the
shit.
same thing that just pays more money.
Right. You know. So I was
That's
done.
not a career change. That's just making more money doing something else. You know,
Right.
the
And that,
same job, but somewhere else. It's like
yeah.
if you
And
got to
that math.
change, you got to change all of it.
Yeah. And that also masks all the problems. It just prolongs the problems. You know, you can't. I
Yeah,
mean, how many of us had a stable fucking relationship? You know, we've all been freaking divorced half a dozen times. God knows, you know.
yeah.
So, and even to this day, man, it's hard. It's just bad, man. And like I said, that's the reason why I started this. I figured this, and I went to the first episode that I did was the whole PTSD treatment program in Batavia, and that's the first time I saw that all these guys we all have the same shit. I mean, different experiences, but the same shit. And I was like, wow, man, this like, and I'm older, and you know, I seen a lot of shit, and maybe I can help somebody. And I just started speaking up, and that's how this happened.
Well, you got to go back to being the grandparent. Remember, I was talking about that whole
Yeah,
grandparent, grandchild transition. There's got to be. We have to be able to say these are the things you can expect, and if it doesn't happen, you should question why it isn't. You should think and not be thought for. You're going to be more effective as a Marine if you can think for yourself, use reasonable logic before you take evasive actions that are someone else's views that may not express what's happening there.
right, right.
It's like don't go blindly into a gunfight. Have the right intel, make sure that's the target, and don't just haphazardly go in and start kicking everything in because you're looking for one person.
Um, yeah. So this is a good break, man. I appreciate you being on here. It's good to, you know, I'm yeah, no problem. I'm sure we could spend a freaking the whole day talking about all the shit and everything. And I will post all these. I'll try to get as much up here as I can of all these pics and everything. And yeah, we'll definitely. I'll be in touch about the beekeeping with you and the veteran stuff and your ranch and whatever else you want to talk about, man. Yeah. All right, brother. Well, again, thanks for the time, and I appreciate everything. And Semper Fi, Gunny. I didn't think I'd ever call you that, man. Freaking ski. All right, bro. I will. All right. Thanks a lot, man.